What if everything you've been through had a purpose? What if the pain you cried over at night, the betrayal you never understood, the prayer that seemed unanswered, was never ignored? What if God is real, and He has been closer than you think this whole time? Let me tell you a story. A man once lost everything in a single year. His business failed. His closest friend betrayed him. His child became seriously ill. One night, sitting alone in his car, he looked up at the sky and whispered, "God, if you're real, I need to know." No thunder, no angel, no voice from heaven. But something happened. The next morning, a stranger called him about a job opportunity he never applied for. That job restored his income. The hospital bill was unexpectedly covered by an anonymous donor. His broken friendship? It was restored months later through a series of coincidences. Years later, he said, "I never heard God's voice, but I saw His fingerprints." So here's the question for you. What if God is real and you've been seeing His fingerprints all along? Today, I'm going to share 7 signs you can't ignore. Not emotional hype, not blind belief, but signs that point to something greater. And I want you to watch until the end, because the 7th sign might be the one that changes everything for you. Sign number 1. The universe had a beginning. Let's start with something powerful. Science tells us that the universe had a beginning. The widely accepted theory, the Big Bang, confirms that time, space, and matter all began at a specific moment. But here's the question. If everything that begins to exist has a cause, what caused the universe? You can't have time before time. You can't have matter before matter. You can't have space before space. So whatever caused the universe must be outside of time, outside of space and material, powerful, intelligent. That sound random? Or does that sound like God? Even great scientists like Albert Einstein recognize that the universe is finely tuned. If gravity were slightly stronger or weaker, life couldn't exist. If Earth were a little closer or farther from the sun, we'd either freeze or burn. It's just like walking into a room and seeing a perfectly set dinner table with food steaming hot and saying, "Nobody prepared this." Deep down, we know design points to a designer. What if the universe itself is the first whisper that God is real? Sign number 2, the fine-tuning of life. Let's go deeper. There are over 100 physical constants in the universe that must be precisely calibrated for life to exist. Not close. Not approximate, exact. If even one of them were off by a fraction, we wouldn't be here. The odds of this happening by chance? So small that mathematicians compare it to winning the lottery billions of times in a row. Imagine finding a fully functioning smartphone in the forest. Would you assume it assembled itself over millions of years? No. Complex information always comes from intelligence. Your DNA alone contains more information than entire libraries. It's a code, and codes require coders. What if your very existence is evidence? What if you are not an accident, but intention? Sign number 3, the moral law inside you. Here's something even more personal. Why do you know that certain things are wrong? Why does injustice disturb you? Why does your heart react when you see cruelty? If we are merely products of random evolution, morality would just be preference, like choosing vanilla over chocolate. But it's not. We don't say genocide is inconvenient. We say genocide is wrong. Wrong according to what standard? If there is no ultimate moral lawgiver, morality becomes opinion. But deep inside, you know some things are objectively right or wrong. That inner compass, your conscience, where did it come from? C.S. Lewis once said he believed in God like he believed in the sun. Not only because he saw it, but because by it he saw everything else. What if that moral voice inside you is not society, but a signature? Sign number 4, the historical person of Jesus. Now let's talk history. Jesus of Nazareth is one of the most documented figures in ancient history. Even non-Christian historians like Tacitus and Josephus wrote about him. He lived. He taught. He was crucified. But here's the part that changes everything. His followers claimed he rose from the dead, and they were willing to die for that claim. Not 1, not 2. Many of them were tortured and killed. People may die for something they believe is true, even if it's false. But they won't die for something they know is a lie. If they stole the body, why die for it? If Jesus truly rose from the dead, that validates everything he said about God. And what did he say? I am the way, the truth, and the life, not a way. What if the resurrection isn't just a story, but the greatest proof in history? SIGN number 5 transformed lives. Let's bring this closer to home. Across the world, millions testify that encountering God changed them. Addicts set free, broken marriages restored, violent men becoming gentle fathers, hopeless people finding purpose. You can debate philosophy, you can question science, but it's hard to argue with a changed life. Saul of Tarsus persecuted Christians until he claimed to encounter the risen Christ. He became Paul the Apostle, spreading the message across the Roman Empire. What transforms a killer into a missionary? Psychology? Or divine encounter? Maybe you've seen it too. Maybe you've experienced peace in a moment that made no logical sense. What if that wasn't coincidence? Sign number 6. Personal experiences you can't explain. Have you ever prayed and something happened? Have you ever felt guided away from danger? Have you ever sensed comfort in grief that you couldn't explain? Skeptics call it coincidence. But how many coincidences before it becomes a pattern? Think about the times you met the right person at the right moment, a door closed that later protected you, a prayer was answered in an unexpected way. What if those were random? What if God doesn't always shout, but often whispers? Sometimes we're looking for lightning when He's working through timing. Sign number 7, your deep longing for more. Here's the one most people overlook. Why do you crave eternity? Why do you long for justice, beauty, love that never ends? Nothing in this world fully satisfies. Money doesn't. Success doesn't. Relationships don't. Even at your happiest moment, there's a whisper. There must be more. If you feel hunger, food exists. If you feel thirst, water exists. If you feel loneliness, companionship exists. So what does your longing for eternity point to? C.S. Lewis said, "If I find in myself desires which nothing in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world." What if that ache inside you is homesickness for heaven? The real question. So now let me ask you again. What if God is real? Not as an idea, not as religion, but as a living, personal being. What if He sees you right now? What if your doubts don't scare Him? What if your questions are the very doorway to discovering Him? The evidence is there. Creation, design, morality, history, transformation, experience, longing. But here's the truth. Evidence can point, but only you can respond. A personal moment, maybe you're watching this and thinking, I want to believe, but I'm not sure. That's okay. Faith isn't the absence of questions. Faith is taking a step despite them. You don't need all the answers to begin a relationship. You just need honesty. Right now, wherever you are, you could say, God, if you're real, show me. Not as a challenge, but as an invitation, and then watch. Final call to action. If this video stirred something in you, don't ignore it. Maybe that stirring is sign number 8. Comment below. I am seeking. I believe. Or I have questions. Let's talk about it. Share this video with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to What If God? Because we're not afraid of the hard questions here. We explore them, because if God is real, that changes everything. Your past, your present, your future, your eternity. So I'll leave you with one final question. What if God has been reaching for you this whole time?